Tan. My name is Diego. I'm from Chile. I am currently studying sociology here. And in 2017, I had the opportunity to travel around India and Nepal for nearly 8 months. And when I was in Nepal, I met Nirmal. We were both working in rebuilding a school there. It was really an amazing experience. And Nirmal is one of the people behind this amazing project of Virtues in Movement. And what I find most interesting about this project is that it gives common people a voice. It gives like each people a voice to say what they think it's important for us to live better and to reach common good in our societies. And when I was traveling, I really felt that each person that I met had something to say, and that maybe between all of us we could find some answers of how we could live with meaning in our lives. And so when Nirmal asked me to do this, at first I didn't think it would be like very complicated to say something that could be helpful to others. But then it really complicated me the idea of what could I really say that could be universal. Um, how could my own reflection be useful to someone in Europe and in Asia and in Africa and America at the same times? Like, do we really have the same problems, the same issues? And even though I don't think I have the answer to that, I actually do think there are problems that we share because they are in the base of our modernity, of how our societies have faced these modern times, and like the lack of community because of individualism, the destruction of nature, and the disconnection in general with the nature. Also, psychological diseases, depression, stress, and many other stuff that I think that they are modern problems. So what I wanted to talk about today is about something that I think it gathers all of these problems, and that is something that I once heard from a professor called social acceleration. So to explain this, I want all of us to do a thought experiment. I want us to imagine that there are some aliens out there in outer space, and they have installed cameras all around the world, and they are looking at us around the centuries. For several centuries, they're looking at us, our human society, with their cameras. Uh, what will they see in these last centuries? Well, I think in the Middle Age, they will think it's a boring planet. I mean, they wouldn't see much movement, like long distance movement going on. Occasionally, there will be some movement, like Marco Polo going to Beijing, or the Vikings moving around. But they were isolated cases of long distance movement, and in a very slow one, like they would took months to travel. Uh, and from there on, like in the 16th century, they will see a little bit more of movement, like ships going around from Europe to America after the encountering between America and Europe, and also ships going on from Asia and Africa to Europe and the other way. There will be more, like a little bit more movement, but still not that much amount of movement, of long distance movement, and still a very slow one. Like it still would take months to travel around. And but then from the 18th century, things change. There is really a dynamization of the world. Steam engine had a really important role in this because of steamboats. They travel faster, but there was also more traffic in the seas. There was a lot of sea traffic going on. There is the aliens could see, like, oh, there's something happening down there, something is developing. There will be a much more dynamizing world. In that time, there was also the construction of railways around the world. There was literally more movement. Then this process increases even more in the ending of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. Uh, there was also cars coming up and bicycles also. You could see the world dynamizing. There and this is not only we're not talking only about people moving around, but also things, goods, materials. The international amount of exchange of products increased dramatically in this time. And then we invented airplanes. There's a lot of traffic of air traffic going on. In this moment, while I speak to you, there's probably like a million of people circling the sky, traveling in airplanes. Well, maybe not now because of the pandemic, but in normal times, that is what happens in the air. Also, we invented rockets. But what I wanted to talk is not that much about high speed movement, but about average speed. If you want to understand modernization, modernization means setting the world in motion, bringing things into movement, and also changing our physical surroundings. We build something, then destroy it, then build another building higher. It's our physical surroundings are moving, are changing every time. All of this must be really interesting for these aliens looking at us. What the cameras will see is that the world changes in a higher pace. The rate of change increase, not only of transports and communication, but also with patterns of association. Who interacts with whom? Human interaction increased a lot in this modern times. The aliens will see that the world does not stay the same for a long time. And so, what do we do as people living in our modern time, in this modern world? Uh, Even all of this technology is built to help us saving more time. Modern people feel pressed. They feel short on time, and that has to be with this dynamization of the world. We feel that we have to run faster and faster to keep pace with this faster and faster world, just to keep our place in the world. So we speed up our own lives. All of us are experts in this. Like, we try to act in a faster pace, and we try to get rid of the intervals between our actions, and also we try to do multitasking. So what is the motor of this movement? It's not human desire alone. It's the logic, the form of our modern society, because a capitalist society can only reproduce itself through growth, through speeding up, innovating just to keep the system. It's a system that cannot maintain its order without acceleration. Modern society cannot be stable unless it speed ups all the time. And this has a subjective side because behind this there is competition to maintain this rhythm, and with competition happens that we all fear that we might be left behind, that if we don't increase our economic and capital, our culture capital, our social capital, then we could be left behind this moving world. So, what is the biggest problem with all of this? How is this an obstacle to reach a life of meaning? Uh, the biggest problem has to do with desynchronization. The world cannot evenly speed up. There are parts of the world that you cannot speed up, like nature, like the ecology. You cannot speed up nature. We cut down trees in a pace that is too fast to regenerate. Uh, the same with animals and other natural resources. So there is a desynchronization between the socio-economic life and nature. But we also see other forms of desynchronization, like psychological desynchronization, all of the stress related diseases. It's a desynchronization between the speed of our own very souls, of our own psychological capacity, and the high pace of the world. Uh, so here is where we have to think what a good life really is. How can we find? Can we face this ourselves? What makes a life a good life? So, if I ask you to think of a story of the most important thing that happened you on the last year, uh, what was the last moment that when you thought like this is what life should be? This is like a good life should be. Most people answer this question like saying like that was something that really touched me, that somehow moved me. Even some people could say like this brought me to tears. uh, these are signals of a moment of resonance. Something moved you, touched you. It was a moment of interaction between you and the world, where you felt that uh, felt like being in a relationship with this world. Um, you can experience this with nature, but also through art or music, or through human interaction like love. Sometimes in religion experiences also. Those are moments of resonance when you feel that you change, and the change here is not just change of an emotional state. It's a change in the way you relate to the world. The change in relationship. You get in resonance with the world or someone, or you can also be in resonance with someone, but it's a thing of resonance. This is the important concept here. This is the opposite of what modern culture of this resonance is the opposite of this desynchronization that is characteristic of this modern culture. uh, it's a moment that is special because you get synchronized with the world. Modern culture makes people feel like the world is silent to you. Modern culture is obsessed with the anxiety that the world might turn deaf and silent and no longer speak to us. You can live money, you can have money, a great job, and a nice family, but you feel like the world is dead to you. It doesn't speak to you. uh, that's why it's really important to look for synchronization, for resonance with the world and with other people. Uh, and I think that maybe this is the only way that we can find a life with meaning in our modern times, to get synchronized, to stop and get your own rhythm in pace with the world and not speeding up all the time. That was what I wanted to say today. Thank you. Gracias. Chao, chao a todos.